I'm your host, Annie Bowles, and this is News du Jour. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the News du Jour, a calmer space to consume the news. So today we have a number of mini stories for you guys, and then all of our longer stories, quote unquote, are actually pretty short as well. But we're going to touch on a bunch of really interesting subjects, and just because they're not long stories doesn't mean they're not important. So let's get to it. First up, in our mini stories, rumors are flying, you guys, that Ron DeSantis's presidential bid is right around the corner, maybe as soon as this week. So stay tuned on that. And if he were to throw his hat in the ring for president, we will definitely be doing a deeper dive into him and where he stands on different issues so that you guys can understand him better as a candidate. Next up, I shared this on our stories, but Robert De Niro in a random interview dropped the surprise bomb that he is actually the father of 7 children, which everyone had previously thought he was the father of 6. And so people were like, wait, what? And apparently he had a baby with Tiffany Chen, who is a martial arts instructor. No one knew. Good for them for maintaining their privacy. And since then, the baby has been welcomed into the world via CBS Mornings, and her name is Virginia Chen De Niro. So welcome to the world, baby girl. Next up in our mini stories, after hearing the Donald Trump interview that we discussed on Friday, E. Jean Carroll legit said that she might sue him again. If you guys remember, Trump repeated his defamatory lie that she was a quote-unquote con job, and a jury determined that this was distinctly a lie. So Carroll called the comments vile and suggested that she might sue the former president a third time for these comments. Her point? Quit lying about me. And for our final mini story, is there going to be a Freaky Friday too? So we just had Freaky Friday's 20th anniversary, and on that anniversary, they announced that Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan are both in talks to potentially participate in a sequel. Is this what we've all been waiting for in our lives? Of course, Lindsay Lohan, her version was actually a remake of the original 1976 version, but there is a sequel in the works and potentially going to have both of those two stars reconnecting in their former roles. Would be so exciting, and you know what? It's enough to keep me going for right now. And next up for today, Twitter names its first female CEO. So Elon Musk named a new CEO of Twitter to replace, himself, and her name is Linda Yaccarino. So she is actually an Italian-American billionaire, and she has served as the head of advertising for NBC Universal. And that advertising expertise might come in clutch for a business that thrives off of ad spend. Twitter has been really struggling to make money as of late, as we have talked about before on this podcast. And again, she is Italian-American like me, and she has earned herself the nickname, quote unquote, Velvet Hammer because of her smooth but strong negotiating style. She may even take on new ways of making money for the company, all while Elon Musk focuses on expanding technology for Twitter. She has a lot of work ahead of her to turn this ship around, but we will definitely keep you guys posted on her progress. Next up for today, I want to let you guys know that The Little Mermaid has premiered. So The Little Mermaid with real people, starring the beautiful Halle Bailey, made its debut with a star-studded red carpet. Of course, Melissa McCarthy was there with her family as she played Ursula in the movie. The rapper Offset brought both his daughters, and the younger one, of course, is also the daughter of Cardi B. They both wore princess gowns, which I thought was so cute. Tamara and Tia Lowry from the Sister Sister show came with their daughters. Kelly Rowland came with her daughter. Heidi Klum came in a fairy-inspired, like sort of ethereal gown. John Stamos, Javier Bardem, and more were seen on this red carpet. And obviously, the meaning behind this premiere is so much deeper than a normal Disney movie premiere. This is the first real people Disney princess movie with a black face as a star. And as we all know, representation matters. And she plays a courageous, adventurous character who is looking to break out of a world that she's outgrown. I don't think anything could be more fitting. I personally cannot wait to see this version of The Little Mermaid with my son. It'll make history and absolutely make me cry. I'm so excited. And for our next story, I do have to issue a content warning for this one. This story involves a homicide. So you guys, Daniel Penny has been charged. If you remember the New York City homicide story for last week, to sum it up, a homeless man on the subway named Jordan Neely was acting erratic, which is not uncommon for New York City, but it was worrying some passengers. So the police were called, but they were taking some time in getting there, and to keep this man from hurting himself or others in the meantime, a young man named Daniel Penny came up behind Jordan Neely and put him in a chokehold and killed him right there in front of everyone's eyes. Onlookers caught the whole incident on camera, so there is video footage that has been, unfortunately, widely circulated online. Daniel Penny was a former Marine, and he acquired high-profile lawyers following the event who were also former military. And they said that their client could, quote, never have intended to harm Mr. Neely and could not have foreseen his untimely death, end quote. But it was unclear whether or not he would actually be charged in this case, and that has changed since the last time we spoke. Daniel Penny was charged with second-degree manslaughter for the fatal chokehold that he put Neely in for 4 minutes. The maximum sentence for this charge is 15 years in prison. Daniel did not enter a plea, but did post his $100,000 bond and surrender his passport. Obviously, this is the juncture of a lot of hot topics right now, whether it's Black Lives Matter, homelessness, and mental health. And this incident brought a lot to the surface, whether it was controversy online or protests in the streets. There's been a lot of discussion about this case, and it's not an easy conversation. Ultimately, it was up to Alvin Bragg whether or not to bring charges against Daniel Penny for taking a life, and we know what he decided now. At the end of the day, you can't just go around killing people in the streets. There are so many other ways to deal with a situation like this one, as people do every single day. Daniel Penny took someone's life, an innocent person experiencing a mental health crisis, and that's not something that can just be ignored. And last up for today, we are going to touch on the civil unrest that's going on right now in Pakistan. So there's a lot going on in Pakistan, you guys, and, we're not going to go on a super deep dive about this because there's a lot of historical context that we could go into, but long story short, this unrest has gotten so bad to the point where their military has been deployed to rein in their own people. So what is it all about, and what are the people they're responding to? Well, their former prime minister was arrested on corruption and terrorism charges. And that has really upset a lot of his supporters, as you can imagine. They began demonstrations that eventually turned violent. At least one person has been killed, but many more have been injured. Police have fired tear gas, blocked telecommunications to kind of tamper down the use of social media, and even outlawed rallies in certain areas of the country. A lot of property damage has gone down, windows smashed, vehicles set on fire, and buildings just absolutely ransacked. And this follows a long history of corruption and arrests for Pakistan's leadership. The international community has stepped up to the microphone, imploring Pakistan to retain the rule of law and really try to stop the spiraling at all costs. Let's hope that things can remain as peaceful as possible. And that for today is the news du jour. Today, for my very first Mother's Day, I wanted to leave you guys with the quote, "Family isn't important, it's everything." If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on whatever podcast platform you use to listen. A rate and review or shout out on social media would mean the world to us and help us be able to keep creating the news du jour. But the best way to support all of our work is to become a patron at www.patreon.com/sugarfreemedia. You can also follow us on social media under sugarfreemedia.co on Instagram and just sugarfreemedia, all one word, on TikTok. We appreciate you listening and look forward to telling you about the news again next time on News du Jour.
Broadcasting from Oklahoma.